Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at Vitro's 3-pack of addressable RGB fans with a RGB controller. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at Vitro's 3+1 fan kit. So it comes with 1, 2, 3 fans and a RGB addressable controller with a remote control. So in this unassuming brown box, there is pretty much everything you need to get yourself up and running with some RGB fans in your system, whether or not you have a RGB controller on your motherboard or whether you don't. It doesn't matter. You can use either the included remote control or you can use the pass-through cables to connect up to your addressable RGB enabled board. So let's take a look. We'll go through, do an unboxing, see what we actually get, check them out, connect that to a power supply, all that kind of stuff, see what the lighting patterns are like, see what the airflow is like, and then we'll come back at the end to have some final thoughts. Right, let's stop the video right there. There is a big problem with this fan set. Now, I'm going to let you watch the rest of the review video and make up your own minds, but come back at the very end. I'm going to put in another segment which actually goes through some of the inherent problems of this particular kit. So, yeah, watch the rest of the video, and then I'll come back at the very end and I'll tell you some more information which wasn't included in the initial video. Okay, so let's start off with the packaging. So yeah, as I said, very unassuming. On the front you've got the Vitro badge there, and it tells you which model it is, etc. Tells you what you get in the box essentially. So you get 3 fans, also you get the hub, and also you get the remote controller. So let's see what's in the box. So inside the box, starting off, we get a instruction guide and installation leaflet, which goes through some of the basics of actually how to set it up and what is included. There is a separate box with our addressable RGB controller and also the remote control. This can actually connect up to 6 fans with both PWM and also addressable RGB functions. So if you did want to, you could buy another 3 of these and add them on to have 6 fans in your PC. Or if you've got existing compatible fans with the 5V 3-pin addressable RGB header and also a 3 or 4-pin PWM style controller, you can actually plug those straight into the box and use them all from this simple hub. Next up, we've got 3 of the Vitro ARGB 120 fans. So these are actually the black version. There is a couple of versions available with this. I'll put some links in the video description so you can check them out. So they do a black set, a white set, and there's also some slightly different optimized ones. These are the 9-blade version. There's also a 7-blade version, and there's also a version with kind of like a black on white theme. So yeah, plenty to choose from. Just select which one is best for you. Also as well, there's options to buy the individual fans. Now these individual fans retail for around about £8 to £9. There's often discount vouchers, as there is for this entire set at the moment. At the moment, it does say on Amazon.co.uk it's £30.99, but they do offer you a 5% off code, which brings it down to just a shade under £30. So I think that's actually pretty decent value for money. So first of all, let's take a look at one of the fans. So the fans themselves, as you can see, yeah, we've seen this already. These fans essentially look to be exactly the same as what is included on the Vitro V5 cooler, which you can check out in the review up here. So if you do want to expand on that, maybe you've seen the cooler review and thought, yeah, that looks pretty decent, but I really want some matching fans, then this is going to be absolutely perfect. On the back of the box, it goes through the specifications. So the size of the fans is 120 by 120 by 25 mil. The weight of the fan is 150 grams, and the fan speed has a maximum RPM of 1300 RPM, give or take 10%. The airflow rating is 48.1 CFM, and it's using a hydro bearing. The rated current for this particular fan is 0.20 amps, again plus or minus 10%, and the rated voltage is DC 12 volts. Now one of the interesting things, which hopefully there is something interesting after those boring stats, is the actual connectivity on the back. So we've actually got the option for RGB pass-through, or sorry, addressable RGB pass-through. So each one of the fans has the ability to daisy chain. So depending what your setup is, maybe you've got limited headers or whatever, if you want to use these on their own, you can connect up an absolute ton of them and share the addressable RGB signal. When it comes to the actual fan itself, then that is a standard 4-pin PWM fully wired connector, so that will plug into pretty much most motherboards, or again, the controller if you're using it. Looking inside the box, we get a set of 4 case fan screws, which is really handy and easy to install, and you can always use the Mike's Unboxing magnetic screwdriver to attach them if you wanted to. Full details of that in the video description. But back to the fan itself. So the fan, as we've seen in the V5 review, which some of you may have seen already, It's actually a pretty decent fan. It's got a nice rigid frame. It's got some logos on the side, the V logo, some elements of design on the side there. Nice to see that there is rubber pads on all 4 of the corners, both front and back. And also you've got these nice opaque blades. On the back it does say that the rated current on there is 0.35 amps, as opposed to what it said on the box, which was 0.2. So yeah, obviously try not to overload your headers if you're not using the included hub. So realistically, most motherboards, the fan headers are around about 1 amp total, so probably 3 of these would be kind of on the limit of what you could expect, but 2 would be absolutely fine. Looking at the connectivity, so as we said from the description on the box, we've got a pass-through addressable RGB connector, so that is the standard 5 volt 3 pin, and also there's a cap on the end. I really like the fact that they've included these caps to cover these up, so if you're not actually using the extension, then you can keep that safely enclosed and to prevent any shorting of the system. Moving on to the next connector, so again 4-pin PWM style connector, and overall the fan itself actually seems to be pretty decent. It's just spinning the blades like that actually does produce quite an airflow, so it'll be interesting to see what these are like at full blast. So now let's take a look at the slightly more important bit, how we actually control these fans. So this is the box for the control hub, and again, yeah, no frills there. Basically does what it says on the tin, and inside of this we get what seems to be 2 packages, so one of which is the remote control, and it looks to be an adhesive pad in there. So the adhesive pad is for mounting the actual control box inside your PC. So the control panel, or the actual remote control rather, is pretty much what we're used to seeing these days. So we've got various control functions on there. You've got the on-off button, speed up and down, the modes, auto, and brightness adjustment, that kind of thing. Also you've got a lock, so you can lock the settings. Also you've got direct access to individual colors, so you've got white, red, green and blue. Also there is a settings cog. I've never quite worked out what that is meant to be, but yeah, if you know, let me know in the comments. Be really impressed if you know what it is. At the very bottom is something which we're not often seeing these days, and that is the actual fan speed control. Now these don't have a particular modular control for the fan speed, so if you're actually using the remote control to control your fan speeds rather than the motherboard, then you can choose the option of either low, medium or high. It would be really nice if they started making these with just a simple plus and minus, so you can go through kind of granular controls of various RPM levels, but for most people this should be absolutely fine. It'll be really interesting to see how quiet the low speed setting is and whether or not it's actually usable for most people in a quiet environment. Next up is the self-adhesive pad. So yeah, pretty simple, straightforward. And if we take the actual control right now, we can take a look and see where that actually attaches. It should be pretty straightforward. So that is the controller itself, and as you can see on one side you've got this kind of design element to it. It doesn't really serve any purpose, but certainly makes it look a little bit less boring. The adhesive pad obviously goes onto the flat side on the back, and you can just stick it onto there. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Although the only thing is with this, obviously that is a one-time deal, so once you've actually peeled that off, make sure you put it in a place where it actually needs to go. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to have all kinds of problems trying to remove that after. Looking at the actual hub itself, so we've got a variety of connections. So on this side we've got 4 addressable RGB outputs, and on the back side there we've got another 2, so that gives us our 6 in total. And moving around to the other side, we've got our 6 PWM outputs for fan speed control. So yeah, pretty much the usual deal. I would have loved to have seen this being a 10 port, would have been very handy for the machine behind me, but certainly you can daisy chain these if you wanted to. So if you have 2 of these, maybe you bought 2 sets because you've got like a 6 fan setup, or maybe even buy more, 9 or whatever, then you can actually just plug in those connectors rather than plug them into your motherboard as you would normally. Just plug them into another one of these and you can daisy chain the signal pretty much endlessly. Nice to see that the actual power for the hub is a traditional SATA connector, and all of the cables are nicely blacked out to give you a rather stealthy install. So that is pretty much it for what we actually get in the box and some of the brief specs. So let's fire it all up, connect it to a power supply and see what they're actually like. Okay, so we've got our power supply. Now this is a basic power supply setup, and all we've done is shorted out the pins actually on the power supply just to get some voltage through here. And all we need to do is to connect up the SATA connector, so we'll do that. I've already connected up 1 fan. Reason behind I've only just done 1 fan is because I actually want to do some tests to see what the airflow is like. So we've got our air meter, so we can see what the individual speeds give out as in terms of meters per second airflow. So all I've got is the fan connected with the PWM controller into the port, and also the addressable RGB, because even if we're just measuring speed, we still need RGB, obviously. So all you've got to do is plug this in. So normal SATA connector, and plug that in, and straight away it fires up. And it's actually quite a blast already. If I put it near the mic, it's not a noisy fan, but you can certainly hear the air flowing through there. So it looks really nice, and the RGB, as we saw again with the Vitro V5, the RGB effects are actually really, really nice. I'm not sure if that's on the brightest setting, so helps if you take the plastic tag out, then it works much better. So then you can adjust the brightness. Right, clearly I'm not very good at my job, so I've actually worked out what the heck is going on now. So because it was in the auto mode, you can't actually change the brightness, it doesn't seem. Actually, no, you can. I lied, you can change the settings when it's in that mode. So let me put this into white, and then you can see the differences. So that is, I believe, on the lowest brightness setting. So yeah, you can see that is getting quite a bit brighter. Obviously the camera will probably adjust to the ISO limits of what is actually on the screen, so it may not be quite as apparent as what is going on. There is, with the RGB, a very, I'm not sure if it's picking up on this camera or maybe the overhead camera, there does appear to be a very, very slight kind of blue tinge to the actual lighting itself, and also in the central hub there does seem to be a very, very slight kind of pinkish hue to it as well. So it's not a pure white as such in the lowest setting. So if we increase the brightness or decrease the brightness, see if we can change that a bit. Yeah, you can still see it a little bit there again. Hopefully it's coming out on the camera. There is a very slight tinge to it. So the red, let's turn that up onto full brightness. So yeah, the red's actually quite a nice red. Again, the camera won't pick it up particularly well, but it is it's quite a nice vivid red. Go into the green, actually yeah, it looks pretty decent. And then we've got the blue, obviously. And let's change the fan speed settings. So in theory, we press the fan speed buttons and it should reduce in speed. So that is on the lowest setting. It's actually not that low. So we'll try the next one. So that's fan speed 2, a little bit more noisy. Certainly can feel a little bit more airflow coming through. And full speed. The ramping speed is quite slow actually, so let's go back down to speed 1. Obviously there is going to be a bit of noise coming through the desk there, so let's go to minimum and maximum, and we'll do that at about a fan's width away approximately, and see what the airflow is like there. Okay, so having a quick fiddle there with various differences. The noise increases actually quite a bit, but the speed actually doesn't. So on the lowest speed you're looking probably about 1.6, 1.7 meters per second. The next one up around about 1.8, and at the top speed about 1.9 to 2 meters per second. So there's a very, very small difference. I'd have loved to have seen this drop down a little bit lower, if I'm completely honest with you, but I guess it is what it is. So let's take a look at some of the modes that are available. So if we go through the mode plus and minus, you can go through, change individual colors, and then you've got this kind of color cycle, which is the usual thing. You can actually speed up the way that the RGB goes from the controller, as you can probably see there. Let's try a different mode so you can see it a little bit better. And they say there's about 50 odd modes that are included straight off, so various different color cycles, and obviously you've got things like the unicorn puke and all that kind of stuff, which probably most people will end up using. We've seen this kind of thing thousands of times before, so I won't bore you to death with it. But essentially, yeah, looks pretty good. The fan speed from the remote control side of things, I would have loved for that to have been a little bit lower. So let's connect up the rest of them so you can see what they're all like together. Again, there is a little bit of noise coming through from the vibration in the desk. When it's in a PC, I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Now obviously with these you can, if you want to, you can plug them into the hub itself, or if you want to, you can just daisy chain them. So we'll do that just as an example. So that is with it daisy chained. Obviously you can go straight into the connector or the hub if you wanted to. But yeah, they do seem to move a decent amount of air, and it does appear to be quite focused. So if I have it like that, so with it on axis, I actually feel quite a breeze. moving it slightly off, and yeah, that is, yeah, it's very much a kind of a focused airflow in these. So these are going to be pretty decent for things like radiators, obviously CPU coolers, because that is what they've used the other one in the other kit, again the Vitro V5, which is an absolutely fantastic cooler, and I strongly suggest you check one out if you're looking for a processor cooler at the moment. So there we go, that is the final fan connected. Now we've daisy chained the heck out of this, so rather than using all of the ports on the hub, I've done one straight into the hub and then the rest are daisy chained. So again, if you want to use these on a radiator and add some more in, maybe connect up the PWM connector, so something else on the motherboard, then you could certainly do that. But I actually really like these fans. They're a very good price. The one thing I would love to have seen, again, I keep on saying it, is a reduced fan speed. I think that would have been far, far better. Fans don't normally like that sort of thing, but just to see how the noise profile changes a little bit when they're actually enclosed. That is often a problem with fans. So the noise profile doesn't really change a great deal if you put something straight in front of it. So if you are putting these into a case where you've got maybe a filter in the front, or maybe straight up against some glass or some perspex or something, then they're not going to get that much noisier. But yeah, overall, actually, I quite like these. The GameMax style hub, which is what this is using essentially, it's from what I can tell, it's basically one of those ODM designs which other people put their branding on. So controller wise, yeah, absolutely fine. PWM control goes through to the motherboard, absolutely brilliant. The RGB control, I would have liked to have seen maybe a few more options on the remote, maybe some kind of baked in modes, so you can go like just straight into a pre-programmed one, which we used to see on things like the Sahara fan hub kits, but then they didn't have the flexibility of being able to use basically any 5-volt addressable RGB fans on their system. That is using a 6-pin system, which is completely proprietary to them. So there is a plus with this. Again, for £30, I don't think you can go too far wrong. 3 fans and a controller for £30, yeah, it's a pretty decent value for money proposition. Those hubs on their own normally retail for around about £10 to £15, depending where you're buying them from. So if you take that into the equation, the fans are roughly somewhere around about £7 a piece, something along those lines. So yeah, for a relatively cost-effective addition to your system, yeah, I think Vitro again are onto another winner. Price-wise, if they stick at this price, they're going to be great. They are very similar to the Antec fans, which we reviewed, which you can check out up here. Those hologram ones with the reflective infinity mirror. Those are about £40 now, so they've jumped up in price. So if you were looking at those previously, these are definitely going to be a pretty decent option. Again, colour-wise, colours are absolutely fine, bright enough. You've got the options on there. Personally, I think I'd probably just connect these up to a motherboard and let the motherboard take control of it and possibly not use this. But again, let me know what you think in the comments section below. So these have been the Vitro 3-in-1 RGB kit. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching. Okay, so you've probably watched the rest of the review video, or maybe some of you may have fast forwarded right to the very end to see what the heck I was talking about. There will be some timestamps in the video, so you can obviously get to whichever part you want anyway. The problem with this particular set is the same with all of them that use that same design of the actual addressable RGB controller. This one, the one from GameMax, and there's an absolute whole host of companies which use the same controller, and they all have the same problem in the fact that for controlling the fan speeds with remote control, absolutely fine, but it does give you the option to control via PWM header. Now, I've tried it on 2 motherboards, the one behind me and my own PC, Asus and MSI, so it's not an MSI thing or it's not an Asus thing, or at least I don't think it is. But for some reason, this device, as my GameMax one didn't previously, at least the first one didn't, it fails to pick up any RPM signal via the fans. So essentially, if you want to take more granular control of the fans or reduce the fan speed, then with this, you just can't. It cannot be done. It does not pick up a fan speed, it just shows 0 RPM, and even changing the DC voltage actually doesn't do a great deal either. You can, if you want to, set both the fan header in BIOS and also in your fan control software to DC mode, and you do get a little bit of control, which is essentially the same as what you get from the included remote control. So yeah, not brilliant. Although, if you are using these fans separately and you just want to buy them because it's cheaper to buy them as a 3-pack and maybe not use this, the fans are absolutely fine. And actually plugging them into a PWM header onto the motherboard directly, bypassing this altogether, the RPM's much better to control. did see a lowest RPM of 750 RPM and a maximum of around about 1500. So again, completely different from what the specs say they should be. It says 1300 RPM plus or minus 10%. So yeah, that is quite a big jump. But certainly plugging them directly into a motherboard, absolutely fine. Lots more control than what you can get from the actual control box itself. The control box itself, I've worked out roughly, you're looking around about 1100 to 1200 RPM on the slowest speed, around about maybe 1300 in the medium, and high speed about 1500 RPM. That is a guesstimate. I've got no way of actually measuring that, but certainly that's what it appears to be like anyway. So hopefully this little update at the end of the review video will give you a little bit more kind of clarification whether or not these are going to be right for you. Personally, for me, I don't think they are. I would much rather go with something like the Up Here set, which is actually in the PC behind me, where the controller actually has much better control, and the fans actually do seem to be slightly more colourful. So certainly, if you want to check out the Up Here fans, there will be a link up here, so you can click on that and see what I thought of those. Well, you can tell what I thought of them because they're still in the PC and they've been in there pretty much indefinitely since I bought them. So anyway, that was a quick update for the Vitro 3-in-1 kit. For certain people, it's going to be absolutely fine if you don't mind the fans not having a great deal of control, and if you just want a cheap and simple to install kit. But if you're like me and you like to have that real precise control over your fans, then maybe you want to look elsewhere or use a different hub controller set. The fans themselves, absolutely fine, no issues whatsoever, and you can pick them up on their own for around about £8 it seems in some places. So certainly, definitely an option, just be wary of the fan controller. So anyway, there's a quick update. Thanks all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.